Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Tune Into Gaming, and I'm North Kozar.
And I'm Quactical.
So, we've got some fun things going on this episode.
So fun!
First, we're gonna break the ice by breaking the tie that happened during last episode's Mystery Sound. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about what we've been playing and streaming, and then we'll get into a discussion on Bethesda games, specifically the differences between Fallout and the Elder Scrolls. And then lastly, we're going to blast off into space and talk about some space games.
And guess what? We have a special guest for you today, Dantean.
I don't know if special is how you would describe it.
You're extra special to me.
Oh,
I think
like
you're
the
pretty
special sauce they give to you at McDonald's. That's how special I think.
That's inappropriate.
Oh,
I've been scandalized.
Wait, what is in the special sauce that makes it so special?
it's nobody knows, man. That's why. I'm just an enigma. I just come from nowhere, and you think you're okay with me, but then you figure out what I am, and you realize no.
It's just like Cotton Eye Joe. Like, where do you come from? Where do you go?
Why are you mystery meat?
Special sauce. That should just be like your new name, I guess.
Special sauce.
No. But anyway, so in case you didn't hear our last episode, or in case you just weren't there. Point being, we do this thing every episode with Mystery Sound where Quactical and I pick sounds for each other and we have to guess them. Well, for some weird reason, last episode, we ended up tying, which I don't know how, but it never happened before then. So we had to come up with...
Suck.
I mean, yeah, basically. But we had to come up with a tiebreaker, and so what we've done is our good buddy Dantean has picked two mystery sounds that neither Quactical nor I have heard, and we're going to have to guess them to try and, break the tie. So
at the same time.
Here's hoping you guys can recognize them.
Yeah, this will be pretty good.
So, Daniel, since you're probably missing some context here, in previous episodes, we give each other a few hints sometimes if we fail, but since we're doing it at the same time, that's not going to be the case.
I mean, we can talk about it and try to...
I can give you guys hints if you guys can't figure it out, but I would say the first one to catch it is the first one who gets it, no?
Yeah, so how I'm thinking we'll do this is we'll hear it, and then if we need to repeat it or whatever, we can do that, and then we'll BS a little bit and try to throw the other person off or whatnot, and then Dantean, you can count down and be 1, 2, 3, and then we'll both say our answer at the same time. So there's no bandwagoning on the other person's answer.
All right.
I'm totally on your bandwagon.
Of course. But so without any further shenaniganing from me, should we go ahead and try this and see what we can guess?
Yeah.
You should know that if you're playing A first, you're listening to a series of sound effects. So you're going to try to figure out what game.
A series of tubes.
Just sound effects, no music. So,
sound effects, no music. Okay, this will be pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and play this and see what we get. So yeah, this is mystery clip A.
There's a couple in there that you should really recognize.
Nice. Wow, that was an eclectic. That was an eclectic mix of sounds. I don't know. Some of them I wasn't so sure about, but I think I have.
I know exactly what this game is.
You know, 100%.
I guarantee you, 100%. I know exactly what this game is.
You 6 Garen and a bush to it.
Yep. So Dantean, should count us in. Keep calling you by your non-internet name.
It's okay. I don't mind if people.
And then we shall spout off our guesses and see how wrong we are.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Star Fox 64.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is.
Ding,
people.
ding, ding. Wow.
I'm surprised.
I was being sarcastic when I said I 100% knew what it was. But I actually
really?
shouldn't have been sarcastic.
Yeah,
No,
that's
yeah.
exactly what it was.
The first noise, I was like, that's pushing start on the start menu to Star Fox 64. Nice one though. That's you really picked like a lot of the key sounds from that. That was cool. I like that it was put together in a nice palette.
I somewhat recognized, I think, like the item pickup noises.
Yeah, those were the ones that I put in there purposefully, saying if they don't recognize anything else, they'll recognize the start. They'll recognize the item pickup.
That was after the start noise. I was expecting the music to come in. The dun 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 dun. Oh, but what were the noises like kind of near the end that sounded like I don't know,
the beepings, the longer one at the end. That was like when you finished the mission, when you were sitting in the end, the end screen after finishing the mission, and the captain would come online, and after his little speech, that would be the thing playing in the background, the sound of the stars and the noise. That's the debrief menu, I think they called it.
Nice
on the track.
Nice,
cool. Okay, well, clearly we didn't break the tie with that one.
Apparently the tie's still here.
My tie is still intact, but it's a clip-on, so
That means it doesn't count at all. It's a fake victory.
It's a clip-on tie does not count as a real.
My hand has been
victory.
held the whole time.
Well, I mean, sometimes you gotta tighten that noose.
All right.
The tie.
Enough bullshittery. We must now resolve the tie that has been tied again.
All right,
Sorry,
so we've got.
I thought I made it hard.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what the next one is. I mean, we're gonna find out. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and play the mystery clip B, and we'll see what
this mystery clip be difficult.
Rock on.
All right. Well, things. Yeah. Stuff.
What things? What stuff? Are you unsure of this one as well?
Well, I mean, there are options. There are so many options.
There's always options. It's sort of like
so many options.
What ice cream flavor do you want? You know, vanilla, chocolate,
correct flavor,
or lactose intolerant. I mean, you got a palate to pick from.
That's my favorite ice cream flavor, lactose intolerant.
That's the only flavor I get.
All right, well,
do we know? Do we have any ideas?
I guess I'm ready.
All the ideas. Every single idea.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Smash
Mute
Bros.
City
Brawl.
from Smash City. I mean, what? Mute City from Smash City was what came out of my face.
Freeman is closer. Actually, you guys are both on point.
I thought it was Big Blue.
Actually, there we go.
It was.
Sorry.
Oh, it was Big Blue.
It was Big Blue.
I definitely thought it was Big Blue.
I was gonna give it to you guys if you guys guessed Smash, but I actually pulled it from. I was gonna use the original 8-bit track from the original F-Zero games. But it sounds much nicer in the remix version from Smash. So since you guys have played Smash, I figured you guys have heard it there.
That's why I was like options, because there's so many different Smash games and then different F-Zero games, and I'm like,
it's
right.
It's Big Blue. That's the first one that plays when you're on the start screen on the original NES. It's always Big Blue.
Cool. Yeah, you're totally right about the Big Blue thing. I was thinking Mute City, and then I just went over in my head, and that Mute City sounds a little bit more like a Sonic song.
Exactly.
So does that make me the winner? Because I guessed Big Blue. I don't know what that voice came from.
Yeah, I mean, I'll concede in this case. It's going to come down to that fine line where just the miss level was guessed. So, congrats, der Quacktical. You have
ding ding ding
quacked yourself a very long earned victory. Actually,
yeah, this is several weeks in the making.
But allow me to bestow upon you your victory fanfare. And
the crowd goes wild.
So there you have it. The stayover from episode 7's Mystery Sound has now been resolved. And
Congratulations, I won.
what is that?
It's a new car. That's from like the classic internet ad.
Congratulations, that's
you won. You are the 20,000th visitor to our site.
I was like, shoot, what game is that from? I recognize that voice. Yeah. Congratulations.
It's a new car.
You've won.
Price is right.
Yeah, of course. Got to be right about that price, though.
Got to be left. Aw, yeah.
Got to be closest, but not over.
Anyway, so NK, what you been playing?
I've been playing and streaming Super Mario Sunshine because it's one of those Mario games. I mean, there's a lot of Mario games that I really missed the boat on, and Sunshine.
But this one's really been the sunshine of your life.
No, actually, not at all.
It's definitely a frustrating game from what I remember, right?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I played Mario 64 a number of times. I love it. I think I got almost all of the stars in a playthrough at one point. I don't know that I've ever gotten all 120 or whatnot, but like
I've gotten as far as 115, so I know the struggle.
Yeah, but Mario Sunshine, I've tried to play before. I've come to it and I've played it for a little bit, and then I was like, I don't really want to, and I've stopped. I've done that 2 or 3 times in the past, and this time I was like, I'm going to stream it, I'm going to play it, and we're just going to beat it so that I can say that so that I can say that I've beaten it and actually like accomplish this, and people will stop being like, what? You haven't played Mario Sunshine?
Gasp!
It's one of those games I feel like that people get offended, and I think rightfully so. It was kind of the GameCube era Mario game, but
right.
I think one of the things that turned me off was the very different Mario mechanic of like having the whole water pump thing and having water defeat enemies instead of the traditional jump punch kick thing. I think
to mention, as with most 3D Mario as well, like up to date, even today, the movement mechanics were kind of a jerk to you depending on where you were standing, right?
Yeah, so and that's really the thing that I've had problems with in Super Mario Sunshine was it's just been, well, one, the camera still sucks. Like, right. I've had so many times where I'm like, okay, and the camera's auto rotating while I'm on top of this building, and I can't like actually keep it locked to where I need to see where I'm going. There's a bunch of these like secrets levels where it's like a platforming level within the level that takes away your water pump, so you can't like do the water hover thing, which the game has basically trained you as a vital mechanic. And so you have to like do classic Mario 3D platforming, wall jumping and stuff, which I'm not the best at it, admittedly, but also it's just like really punishing in the movement, especially like the side jumping where you like run to the right and then quickly go left and jump to get like a higher jump.
It's just hard to get it to
he does like
activate.
A backflip type thing, right?
It's inconsistent. Like he's super floaty. So like when you go to the right and then go left, he like is in the air for almost, I think, a full second when you switch directions. And so like I'm not sure when in that window it like triggers his jump, but sometimes I'll go like right and then left and then try to flip back to do it to the right, and it won't trigger the jump to the right, and he'll just like jump normal and I'll fall off the thing. Or I'll accidentally do it when I'm just like changing directions and trying to like turn around and jump. And it's just
I remember 64 had pretty tight mechanics when it came to the different jump types and like the maneuvers that you could pull off.
Yeah, I really appreciated the controls for 64, and I just feel like Mario Sunshine struggles a lot with that, at least in my experience. And it's just a hard game. Like I'm not going to say that I'm a great 3D Mario platforming game player.
You are the wizard.
It is a difficult and punishing and challenging game, especially some of those platforming levels when they're like, all right, you got to do this, and this block is rotating and you've got to like parkour up it. And then there's one that there's a giant sand bird that you're on top of that literally I don't know how you're supposed to beat that because I can't. You're supposed
to jump on the clouds, man. You gotta float the bird, float the clouds.
I jumped on the cloud, and then I tried to jump back on the bird, and then it just
Yeah. But the bird will physically rotate, so you can't stand on it for any given amount of time, right?
My more recent experience with Mario games, or at least 3D Mario games, has been with Mario Galaxy, which is a fantastic game.
Really?
Quick point to make on that. Those platforming levels that you hate in Super Mario Sunshine were actually the precursor levels. Those are the earliest levels of Super Mario Galaxy.
Really?
That came for the Wii. Yeah. They basically took that whole concept around those like side levels and they made a game around it. And that's how you got the floaty space stuff, because that's basically what you're looking at, right? When you're playing those platforming levels, you're looking at platforms that came out of nowhere. You just brought them from space. That's where that concept came from.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the Galaxy games are definitely fantastic. And then I played a little bit of Mario 3D World, the Wii U one, but I've never played Mario Sunshine, so it's interesting to hear that it's really difficult.
It is, and it's definitely, I've gotten frustrated with the game, and I'm to the point where I'm like, I just want to beat it. I want to beat the story and complete it. I don't care how many sunshines I need to get. I just want to get enough so that I can continue with the game. And
you just have to get like 60 total to like finish it.
I don't know. We'll find out. But I did discover, I finally found the place where you turn in blue coins to get shines.
Oh, hey.
Which I didn't know where to find it, because where you go in to get it is like on the side of a building that has a level, and I just never thought to go in the building, and someone in chat was like, it's that building. And I was like, oh, thanks. 'Cause my objective basically is like every time I play to try and get 5 shines, because I usually play about an hour or a little more. And I feel like that's reasonable. And this last time I played, I got really stuck because like on most of the levels, I met one of the secrets and I just can't do the platforming. And it got frustrating. And I was like, I don't want to keep doing this because this is just frustrating.
Yeah, and I think that's the point that I got to with Galaxy, is that I beat like sort of the main story. And then I got to some of the challenge levels and like the Luigi levels. And it was like, nope.
Yeah.
I do this.
I haven't played Galaxy, but I've heard good things. I haven't played any. I think Mario Sunshine is the most recent 3D Mario game that I've played. I've played the like Wii U side-scrolling one and the Wii side-scrolling one and whatnot. I think I just much prefer the 2D side-scrollers of Mario games as opposed to the 3D ones. Mario 64, I think, excluded. That's a pretty good one, but...
Well, yeah, because isn't there like, there's new Super Mario Brothers Wii, and there's like new Super Mario Brothers Wii U something, or whatever it's called?
Right, but that's completely separate from 3D Mario World. It's like, isometric.
Which I do really like that one. And they have some interesting mechanics in there. With you could like fly the dragon around, and isn't there like surfing too?
What?
Yeah, you ride the dragon. You ride the dragon through water. That's what it is. You don't fly.
Yeah.
That is an interesting sounding mechanic.
It's definitely meant to be cooperative, because there's a bunch of stars that you need to get like to do the full completion of the game that you can't get up high enough unless you time at least 2 jumps at the same time. So because when you jump at the same time on the frickin' dragon, you'd get higher ground. I'm almost done with the bonus levels in 3D World, trying to get the full completion. Very close, but it's so freaking hard towards the end.
So is it
so freaking hard?
I don't even think I've seen any gameplay of it, honestly. Is it more like 64, or is it like you select levels like Mario World?
You select levels more like Mario World, yeah.
Okay.
But you run through the stage. It's like kind of sort of like a fixed angle camera that like slides along the stage. But the world itself is 3D, so it's like that's why I would say it's more of an isometric game than anything.
Okay,
but then the stages like float in space, kind of thing.
Okay. I think I have actually seen some gameplay.
Like they're their own like big worlds too, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you there's a lot of like, it's really tight controls actually for like complaining about 3D Mario games. It's like and like it being a 3D isometric game, it's very very well controlled. It's fun to mess with the people you're playing with, shove them off of the stage or whatever. After you do the life cheese, because that's the only way to play that game. You have to cheese yourself for 10,980 lives.
That's specific.
The struggle with playing co-op on some of the newer ones was that you just get in each other's way so much, especially if you're playing 4-player. Like it's just ultra chaos.
Yeah, that's why you got to do the life cheese. I'm pretty sure I still have my save file with a bunch of freaking lives on the Wii that I'm leaving.
How does the life cheese work? You know, you leave your lives around until until generate moldy mushrooms,
just so they pasteurize, and then you slice it and you try to get the slice smaller and smaller. No, there's like on the early level stages you can force a Koopa to land between a wall and it's like an crevice, and you can like jump on it over and over and over and over again. Repeatedly. And after you get to what is it? How many coins? At the repeated jump, the coin you earn becomes a life. You just stand on that for like 10 minutes, and then you have more lives than you'll ever need.
Nice.
Bouncy, 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 bouncy. The Koopa is a bouncy castle.
I'll have to look into 3D Land then. That sounds it's more like a traditional Mario platformer, except it's just 3D.
Yeah.
It's not 2D side scrolling. That could be interesting. I think
And,
I have actually seen some footage of it now that I think about it. So.
It's fun to play co-op too, so you wouldn't have to play alone.
That would be fun.
Yeah, which would be fun for streaming as well, because then just chaos and murdering your friends.
Yeah. That's for the Wii U?
Yes.
Wii U,
okay.
Yes.
I'll look into that.
For sure.
How about...
I've been playing a little bit of Gungeon, a lot of different stuff, actually. A little bit of Gungeon, a little bit of FTL, a little bit of Overwatch, some Rocket League with you guys. It's been good. Had a nice variety recently. But the FTL has been really interesting. I played some of the advanced content, or if you're not aware of FTL, they released a free expansion pack, a year or so ago, with a whole bunch of new content, which is pretty cool. Some of it makes the game a little more challenging, but I had a very ion-based chip, which basically meant I was able to disable a lot of enemy ship systems, but my damage was super, super low. So by the time I got to the late game, I was really, really struggling to get through some of those last encounters, and I eventually ended up dying on the final level. But it was a really good run. I had these interesting creatures in my crew who didn't require oxygen, and they drain oxygen from the rooms around them. So the advanced content is definitely pretty cool. There's a lot of new encounters and just new events that I saw. So I'm definitely excited to continue playing it. I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, I actually had no idea that all this new stuff was new stuff. I very recently started playing FTL, even though I've had it in my library for God knows how long. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I like, for instance, the clothing bay is new, right? That's a new addition to the advanced thing. I just thought that was a thing. I thought it was it's a very, very enjoyable game. It's very difficult, and apparently there's a hard mode now, which didn't used to be there. I can only imagine trying to play the game.
I've never gotten anywhere beyond easy.
Time.
Yeah. And then today
you guys have won, right? You beat the game. That's
only on easy.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I've beaten it a couple times on easy with a few different ships, but I think 2 or 3 of my victories were a mutual victory failure. My ship died when their ship died. Oh.
Oh goodness! Does this give you a victory? What happens?
Yeah, well, because it doesn't care if you live; you just have to destroy their ship, so you still win. But it came down to where they had 1 health left, and they had just fired missiles, and I had 3 health left. So it was okay, we'll see if my shots land, and they did. So
that's
mutual destruction.
Yeah, and then today we also discovered that Gungeon they installed a save button on the end of each floor when you take the elevator down.
That's new. You used to just be able to leave.
Yeah, I saw that. That happened with the supply drop update that came earlier last week.
Do you have any idea of the reasoning behind that is? I can't imagine that game was already too easy.
I think just so that you could save and quit and come back later to the run if it took a long time.
You used to be able to do that just by leaving the game, no? You'd come back to whatever checkpoint you were at, it would drop you on the teleport pad, right? Depending on how many rooms you'd cleared.
I thought so.
That's what I thought it did too.
I don't know. I really only got into Gungeon literally a day before the update happened.
That's right. So
I haven't played enough, or I haven't gotten far enough in where I felt the need to stop in the middle of a run. So I mean,
I would rage quit all the time.
Whenever I get into any sort of run with a game like FTL or Gungeon, it's just I'm committed until the end of it. Really, it's hard to stop. And then, I can't imagine trying to come back. I think I've done that with FTL, but I came back and I'm I have no idea what I was doing, and then I died.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, but I'm definitely excited to try out some of the new content. I played Gungeon when it first was released, and definitely really enjoyed it, but started getting to a point where I wasn't really making that much progress, and I was just sort of grinding the Gemini credits. But then with the new content, I'm definitely excited to play some more of it and probably stream a little bit more of it too. It was fun watching the stream it the other day.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of the games that I really enjoy seeing streamed. I think really just about any roguelike is fun to watch.
Yeah, They just have such a dynamic experience. And you know me, I'm always a sucker for roguelikes.
Yeah.
As we talk about too, roguelikes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that seems to be a recurring topic here on the cast of the pod.
Speaking of content updates, how about that Capture the Rooster? Hey, have you guys talked about that on stream at all?
Oh, in Overwatch. Yeah, so for Overwatch's New Year's update, or the Chinese New Year's,
Lunar New Year.
Yeah. They added a capture the flag mode as just like a arcade thing. So it's basically, it's not, it's its own separate like queue that you go in and play capture the flag. And they have like 3 different looking maps for, well, one of them is a regular map. It's the like tower.
Lijiang Tower?
Yeah, the Lijiang Tower, but it actually...
I actually haven't played the mode at all, so...
Actually, all 3 of them are. It's just the different stages of the capture the point, except with capture the flag. I didn't actually notice that. I thought that they were different maps, but they're totally just whatever. Anyway, point being, it's capture the flag in Overwatch.
Lijiang's tower is a little bit like fancy pants stuff because they do that. But yeah,
fancy pants stuff. Yes,
like there's like fireworks and stuff everywhere. Like it looks a lot more festive.
Yeah, for the Lunar New Year thing,
for the holiday.
But it's it's interesting playing capture the flag. Could you want to talk a little bit about your experience with that, Dantean?
Well, it hasn't been a very positive one. It definitely makes me understand why it is that game mode isn't in the official release. What I find, okay, they've done this thing where you have to sit on the flag in wherever it happens to be standing, which is very far in like the defensive, like just right outside the spawn for the enemy team. You have to sit and stand on this platform for I think 3 seconds before you can capture the flag, before you can pick it up, right? So you can move it. Which ends up having the effect of if there's any turrets around or anything, or anybody that can get to you alongside that turret, just get shot a couple times, you're dead. You can't pick up the flag. You can't get it out. It's just like really like tight area where the spawns are right there. You can get a pick or two, but spawns are going to come right out right in front of you. And the other problem that I'm seeing is that if you do in fact get it out of the base, once you are out, there's so many tight corridors that you can run through that nobody can touch you on the way back.
Yeah. So you basically just like once you get it out of the main like capture point, you're just home free.
Pretty much.
Especially if you're a fast character eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you're not,
you got it.
Honestly,
no.
Like I've gotten a number.
To get out.
Yeah, I've gotten a number of flag caps as Roadhog. So you don't have to be fast. You just have to actually pick up the flag and then not get killed.
Yep.
But which is why then you can just like stick a bunch of shields around the area and the game just stalls out.
That's definitely so. There seems to be 2 sides of the coin. You have the dug-in defenses with turrets, bastions, just camping the flag in these tight corridors, and the maps are like quite small for capture the flag. There's no real like what you were saying. There's no real dynamic like play going on. It's once you have a very short distance between points. So there's no real teamwork to necessarily get the flag back.
Open corridor where you can get shot. That's what's necessary in this kind of thing. But
yeah, and so you have like this thing where it's just stack a bunch of shields at the enemy flag. So take a Reinhardt, and you can basically block off any chance of the team spawning and getting to the flag to defend it because you have a shield there. And it's actually really easy with a coordinated offensive team to get the flag, and then you can essentially deny the defenders from even being able to defend their flag. So there's that aspect of it.
Off the point.
Yeah. And then there's the other aspect of everyone is super dug in defensively and nothing ever happens and the game ends in a draw. And it's unfortunate because I like the, having capture the flag makes it interesting with the different character choices that you have. And I think that how they have it set up with needing a few seconds to pick up the flag and whatnot is a neat mechanic. But I just think that the biggest... Yeah, I think that just the biggest struggle, though, is the map design doesn't fit it very well. And I really think that they would have to make a specific map for capture the flag.
Like larger maps or something?
Yeah, larger, longer.
Or the other option being is you make asymmetrical capture the flag maps, where you have an attack and defend, which, is most of Overwatch's attack defense. Aside from
and then it's easier to balance because then you only have to really focus it one way. It doesn't have to all be the same.
The problem then is you just can't have a lot of the Overwatch map seems to be very corridor based. You've got the straightforward approach, and then you have the left and the right approach.
Yeah.
And for a capture the flag, you need more angles than that. You really need like a behind approach and things as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking like classic Halo style playing on Blood Gulch, right? You know, where you have the base and the flag is in the middle of the base. So you have to be able to like cross the map to their base and like get inside their base as well. Mm-hmm. Which means that they can like defend it from the top or the high ground on all sides. But then, you know, since you have to traverse the length of the map, there's plenty of time for them to like catch up to you with vehicles or something like that.
Is it like a big open area where the flag would be sitting? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that you see in Overwatch. You see like there's an arch and like boxes on the side. And
the flag was inside a base. So like the flag itself was covered, but the bases were on opposite sides of this really long valley, and there was a big open area in the middle of the valley.
So you pick up the flag and then you're forced into a big open area. Okay.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that specific map design would work for Overwatch, just because then you have the problem of turrets and like that's sort of
right. It's a different game in that sense.
Right, but I get what you're going for in terms of the map needs to be specifically designed thinking about how capture the flag would work in Overwatch, and I think maybe having, you know, a two-sided CTF isn't gonna work for the game, but I think that they could definitely try and do an attack, defend, capture the flag style, an asymmetrical map designed for capture the flag. Yeah. I think that's something that they could do if they were interested in, you know, seeing it forward. But
they definitely seem to have placed a big emphasis on like learning from how the game evolves so far. So, you know, hopefully this as a test will allow them to see what they need to fix to make it work as a game mode.
Yeah, because I do enjoy it. I just think that in the current iteration of things, it doesn't really fit.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool.
Always looking for big new stuff from Blizzard.
So, Dantean, do you have a particular item of discussion that we wish to discuss?
I mean, I was just I was thinking about this offhandedly. Bethesda games. I'm a big fan of the Fallout series. Well, have historically been a big fan of the Fallout series. But I've also dabbled in the Elder Scrolls series. I've only in Skyrim, which is considered to be one of those big everybody loves games, right? Yeah, it's come out on what? Seven different systems.
Yep.
Absolutely, it's coming to the Switch too. So it's crazy. It's crazy that so many people love that. But I sit down and I play that game, and I find myself wishing I was holding a laser rifle or a plasma rifle so I could melt my whatever dragon happens to be
in Fallout style instead.
Yeah, instead. And I don't know. I was just hoping to get some discussion going about how like what is it about those Elder Scroll games that like did it for you guys that maybe played it a little bit more than I did versus like what I got out of the same developer, just different IP.
We've talked about this in the past a decent amount, and I think it's partially like what your first experiences were with open world games.
Definitely.
For me, like I actually was never even able to get into Skyrim as I was able to get into Oblivion, and that's not to say that Skyrim is a worse game than Oblivion. It's just that I played Oblivion first, right? And so the first game that I was like, wow, look at this massive open world and look at all this stuff I can do was really Oblivion for me. So, there's a certain amount of extra investment that you get from not having had those experiences before. So I think that when people like play Fallout 3 first, for example, because that was the rivalry then, was Fallout 3 versus Oblivion.
That's what it was.
People who had played Fallout was like, well, this is the open world game that I'm really identifying with, and Oblivion seems like a knockoff. And like I've known so many people who have, it's like either one way or the other. It seems like.
I would definitely concede and say that Fallout probably came out of the Elder Scrolls. It's probably more so how it came.
At least from Bethesda's development.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that was really the difficulty that I had with it is, so I definitely, I played Oblivion first, loved the game, spent hundreds of hours playing it, and when I tried playing Fallout 3, which I was excited for, I'm like, this is cool. It's sort of like, open world, but like Oblivion, but with guns and stuff, was how I approached it.
Right.
And when I got into it, I was really disappointed by the gunplay. And I think that was really the big turnoff for me. The world, I felt not super immersed in. I kind of didn't care about the Fallout 3 world very much. I was there and I was like, okay, so right, apocalypse, Fallout, terrible, cool. but like I couldn't really get into the whole like mutant thing and whatnot. And I think that some of that could definitely be coming off of, you know, having played Oblivion and really liking that. And because the gameplay is so similar between the two, because they use basically the exact same engine, at least at that point.
The exact same engine. Totally does.
I mean, it's a different implementation of the same engine, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. And so when you have a gun and you're shooting a thing in Fallout 3 for me, I was like, this just doesn't feel good. Like, it didn't feel good to shoot the gun unless you were using VATS. And then it was like watching a movie. So you weren't really even playing at that point. And it could also be when I was playing Fallout 3, I was also very much into Halo 3, which is, if I haven't already disclosed my bias enough on this podcast, my all-time favorite game and favorite first-person shooter. And so I think that a number of those factors kind of combined really made it difficult for me to get into Fallout 3.
So you came into it spoiled from the fantastic gunplay of Halo, and expecting something more engaging. I guess.
I think honestly, I was just expecting something more satisfying. Like even playing Borderlands, which, you know, is similar in gunplay, just in regards to it's not like, you know, headshot, instant kill type of thing. The enemies have health and the guns have stats. The gunplay in Borderlands feels satisfying, and I wasn't expecting Fallout 3 to play like Halo 3, but I think I was just expecting something that felt satisfying, whereas it felt like I was playing Oblivion with guns. I think honestly was kind of how I felt about it, and I wasn't.
Right. And then when you've played Oblivion first and you've really been into it, it always seems like it's, oh, well, this is just kind of, I should just be playing Oblivion.
As opposed to the flip side of that, where if you played Fallout first, then you play Oblivion or something, or Skyrim, and you're like, this is like Fallout, but where are the guns? Why can't I shoot things?
Yeah, I was going to say, I had pretty much the exact same reaction to... for me, it was Skyrim, because I'd never played Oblivion. I saw someone play Oblivion, but STU did the Fallout 3, basically.
It's funny, too, because I would say the feature that I cared about the most for Oblivion was actually the spell creation.
Yes.
That was something that was so awesome, because you could pretty much combine, like, almost any of the different, like, spell abilities together. Couldn't you, just in, like 2 of them or 3 of them or something like that? Or
you could. There was a limit. There was also a way to, I think, get around that limit with some sort of exploit or whatnot, even on console. But I just know that it was cool and really had a lot of potential, but it was still very limited, which is why it was something that I was hoping would be in Skyrim, but
they
did not
kind of completely took it out,
jump.
Unfortunately. But yeah, I really like that. And I remember that we sort of played the Mages Guild quests somewhat like the main storyline sometimes. It was definitely a kind of cool structure for that quest. That's mostly what I remember about Oblivion, apart from the fact that some of the DLC was really awesome, especially the Shivering Isles.
Yes.
But
good.
What I liked about the Mages Guild was that, you know, you had to go to all the towns. You know, we've talked about this talking about Skyrim as well, that, you know, one of the gripes that we had was that the quests really took you all over the map, and it made it so that you really wanted to just, like, abuse the fast travel to actually do things, like we were talking about the Thieves Guild, right?
Yeah.
But what I liked about Oblivion was that, you know, you'd go to each town with the Mages Guild, but the things that you'd have to do were at least fairly close to that area. So, like, you'd go somewhere, you'd maybe do some quests in that area, you'd solve whatever problem you needed to solve for the Mages Guild, you'd wrap up your business in that town, and then you travel down the road to the next town and do it again, but different, right? And so it definitely felt like more of a journey. And then, you know, eventually you wind up in the capital now doing kind of like the main Mages Guild quest line. So it's like, it definitely feels like there's a natural progression. And it really just felt very, very good as a series of quests and as a plot line. It was pretty interesting too.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought much about the Mages Guild quests from Oblivion, just because I think about mostly Skyrim, just because I've played it more and have played it more recently, and just how grand and cinematic the Mages Guild quests were in Skyrim, like, by comparison. They really kind of felt like their own story mission. Like, in and of itself, like, that could have been the main story to the game. But
I'm pretty sure that when I played Skyrim, all I did was play for some guild or the other. That's all I did. The main story. Actually, no, I never got through the main story, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever beat the main story for Skyrim either, which is kind of interesting.
I did, because when I played Oblivion, I did the same thing. I had a character who did literally everything, and when I first played Skyrim, I did literally everything. And it's okay. It's not the best. It feels like a story that was kind of unnecessary. You know, it like cool dragons are back. Here's the reason why, but it just. I think they tried to make it into this bigger dramatic thing than it kind of needed to be.
But it doesn't really like mesh with the rest of the gameplay.
Yeah, it kind of became this like the dragon's going to bring the apocalypse and we're all going to die. Okay, and then you fight the dragon and you beat the dragon and the dragon is like immortal, so you can't kill it, so you have to die to kill the dragon, and it's just like I don't know. It didn't really feel like a great story. But I don't know that I super thought that the main story for Oblivion was all that great either. Like it was cool and interesting, but I really liked the Thieves Guild quests in Oblivion.
Which, and the Dark Brotherhood too.
Stealing the Elder Scroll and doing like this huge grand heist mission, like that was cool, and that felt like legit when you were doing that. Whereas the Thieves Guild quest in Skyrim just felt really kind of sad by comparison. But I mean, again, it's different game, different times, and Oblivion being the first we played, of course, we're going to have some rose-colored glasses for it. But
for sure.
I'm interested. So, have you played Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as happy with that as with Fallout 3 or New Vegas. Not
really.
Nearly. Nope. I haven't finished it. I have every piece of DLC. I got that for Christmas 2 years ago. I got the game and the season pass 2 years ago.
Right.
And I have not finished it. I finished the main storyline through one path, but there's still so much to do. There's still so much to do. And nothing about the characters makes me want to go back and keep doing their quests. You know, in the previous Fallout games, and I guess it's the same sort of feeling that you got from the Mage quest line. You'd go to a town, and you do absolutely everything for everybody there was to do there, and they would send you on places fairly close, send you to places fairly close by, but they would give you a reason to go there, right? They would tell you, there's like a camp of super mutants here who happens to be kidnapping people from this town, and we don't know what they're doing with them, but could you find out why? And you go there and you realize that they're kidnapping them to convert them into more super mutants, and you're like, what? Versus where I feel like in Fallout 4, you get there and you don't know. First of all, you don't know why you went where you were going, apart from Preston Gravy told you that there's another settlement under attack. Blah blah blah. And you get there and everybody's like, "Thank you, stranger. Here's some water." And then you leave.
It's like I haven't done anything yet.
Yes, like you have killed like 3 things, and now I'm good. And I felt no satisfaction. No like sense of accomplishment. There's a lot more like customization, I suppose. Like people got really into like the settlement builder thing, but I like city builder games, but I wasn't enjoying this. I wasn't enjoying the Minecraft style, like put together a little town from scratch. It became a lot less about the story, I feel.
That's funny,
and you lose the investment that way. Yeah,
exactly. And like the characters were a lot less fleshed out. I don't know.
I think I've watched a number of streams of Fallout 4 because I was interested in it more so than I was Fallout 3. I think I kind of get where you're coming from with the characters. At least a lot of the main characters that I saw, I didn't like any of them. I was like, they're all kind of extremists in their own right, and they all kind of just like made me angry at them.
And because they're so extreme, they're very flat. There's like nothing to them. There's no dimension to the freaking.
Because it's like they're totally defined by their particular viewpoint, and like that's the only thing that is.
Yeah, this is what they're about. Like
they didn't feel like
no
human.
other dimension to them. Yeah.
But it's funny because the thing that actually made me most interested in Fallout 4 was seeing like the weapon customization and the like town building stuff. Those were the two things that I was like, this actually seems really cool. And I did notice an improvement in the gunplay.
They definitely tried to make the gunplay look a lot cleaner, feel a lot flashier too. You know?
So in that regard, it seemed like it played a bit more like a shooter. I just can't play it because my computer's a potato. So
potato. I like potatoes.
Who doesn't, man? Some good carbs.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no.
You say there's a lot more fetch quests too.
It was pretty much all a fetch quest. Every single quest in that game was go here, do this, come back with this thing. Like,
oh man.
Maybe I needed to play more specific quest lines. Maybe I needed to read more terminals or something. But you know what? I don't want to have to read every single part of the story. I like having to search for like here and there, like little pieces of detail. But like when all your story is put into a holotape that you have to read, it's a little.
It's like you're separating yourself from the actual interaction of the game to get the story element. It's like they're making the story just like a side thing you can do. Like you can do all these fetch side quests if you want, or you can do all these collectibles if you want, or you can care about the storyline if you want. But the main gameplay is something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is at this point. I don't know what they're really going for.
It's like at that point. Well, but at that point, like if you have to read so much of it to actually get an understanding of what's going on, like make it a book and just read the book. But like when Seriously. I play a game that has a story, I play it for the experience and being able to take an active role in what's happening, and that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I enjoy story games for that reason, is because I like the whole encompassing experience, gameplay, visual, and story all together. So like I get having like hidden things or like little bits that tell you secrets or other aspects of the story around, but like, you know, don't make me read the entire story.
Yeah, and you need to be able to feel like your actions have an impact on the world.
Exactly.
And to give you that investment. Because like if you can just build a town, you know, you need something to invest yourself in that town. And I guess, you know, that's probably what we're trying to do with the building mechanics in general. But
like you made this is yours, but that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
Like it has to interact with the world of the gameplay or the characters in some way, I think, for it to really sink into that next level. Obviously, like you still get something out of it, right? I'm not saying it's totally useless, but to get that like next level of immersion, it needs to sink in with the characters and with the storyline.
Yeah. Like you were saying that when you were talking about Oblivion, that you fell into this like the story, but you didn't necessarily fall into it for the main storyline, right? Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like for me, when I played Fallout 3, I was super invested in finding my dad. I really wanted to know what happened to him and what he was doing, and every time I felt like I was getting close, he was further away, and you get little like bits of information to try to put your piece of your puzzle together. And then when you finally do, you realize what person your dad is and like what he's up to. And everything you've done up until that point, like decides who your allies are, and as you're going into the end, and your personality dictates what you can do in those final moments that decide whether or not the super mutants win, the Enclave wins, which is the old government, or everybody fucking gets free water. Like those are like the last three like things you can do, and that's they're barred. One option gets barred depending on how you decide to play the game. And I don't know. It sucked me in from like beginning to end. I played all of it, all the DLCs. Mothership Zeta was probably my favorite. If that falls into the Fallout 3 one, where you go into space and you kill aliens, you literally just kill aliens. And you run into a band of people that they've abducted, and it's just different people from different cultures throughout like ages. So there's like a Mongol from the from the Han dynasty, and there's like some guy that was kidnapped from a space mission, so he's wearing an old school Russian space suit, and he speaks only in Russian. And you have to cooperate with these people. It's like a baseball player too that like disappeared. It was
Babe Ruth. It's Babe Ruth.
Some motherfucker.
Headcanon Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of going to space, space question mark.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about space games this episode because we'd been playing, well, I guess mostly FTL, but we've been playing a number of space games ourselves, and just thinking like with the upcoming release of Mass Effect Andromeda and kind of revisiting on some of that stuff, we just thought we would talk about some of the space games that we've played and what we've enjoyed about them, and just I guess kind of what it is that makes a space game as opposed to just like a science fiction game. Like when we're talking about games and we're like, yeah, we're playing a space game, like what is it that makes a game in space? Is it just the fact that it's in space, or is it that there's spaceships?
Well, I mean, theoretically, most games take place in a space of one form or another.
Hardy har.
I don't have like a want noise to play, but just insert
Space games just take place in empty space.
Yeah, there you go. So it's actually like an unspace game.
It's an ungame. No, they're definitely still games. They're just unspace.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Well, I guess if I think back to the very first space game that I ever played, it probably has to be Galaga.
There you go.
In the laundromat, because that's where I went to go play my video games while
Space Invaders.
Yeah, Space Invaders or Galaga.
Nice.
For me, it was for sure Galaga. I still remember the fucking rundown machine while I was waiting for my mom to do the laundry. She would give me a couple spare quarters, and I'd get a couple lives on Galaga. And I remember being so bad. I remember being so freaking bad. Just like tiny old me who could just barely see the screen, mashing on the fire button,
dying instantly.
Yes.
I'm not super familiar with it. So it was like a top-down bullet hell kind of thing?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, very similar to Space Invaders, except just faster paced, and the enemies had unique movements.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're not like a tank on the ground. You're flying through.
Yeah, in space.
Okay, that's pretty much it. It's
Definitely
through space, but even though you're like a still ship and things are moving
So
around,
like kind of like Island Hopper almost, actually. But
Yes, yeah, that style of game.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, Galaga. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that, but it definitely is one of my like retro favorites, and I had a similar experience playing it in. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like there was this like castle place in town that had like a mini golf course underneath it, and there was like a restaurant or something in the upper floor. But in the mini golf course underneath, they had like a couple arcade machines there, and I'm pretty sure I played Galaga there a number of times. My grandpa and I went there to play mini golf, and
mini golf.
I'm sure I played Galaga somewhere else as well, but definitely I have some fond memories of Galaga. Again, I think I was also terrible at it, but it was just fun to play, and I liked the music and the sounds.
the music was so good.
Oh man, I feel like I'm missing out on just like all of the history here.
Really, you didn't get to play cabinet games? Something you got to
I
say?
don't know, not really, not a ton.
I mean, you could totally find a place that has all these cabinet games. Right?
Yeah, I remember playing this one like dinosaur-based fighting game,
What?
but I don't really remember anything else about it except that like seemed sort of like retrospectively like Mortal Kombat, except with like characters that like transformed into dinosaurs.
Oh god,
That sounds awesome.
whoa!
Man, because there was
thinking
an arcade in town for a while called the Space Station. I don't know. I know my dad and I went a lot. I don't know if you ever came Quactical or not, but
I don't remember, so I don't think so.
it was kind of over by shoot, where was it? It's over by where the Bear's Tooth is now, actually.
Oh, really?
It was like, I think it's now a Plato's Closet or Brown Jug or something. It used to be in that building there for a couple of years.
I remember playing arcade games in the movie theater.
Yeah, that was a thing too.
That had actually the largest arcade I was aware of.
No, we definitely had like a legit arcade for a while. I think now that they're getting a Dave and Buster's up there. But
that'll happen. For sure.
Dave and Buster's is pretty cool.
Yeah, nowadays it's like LAN cafes, kind of like Howie's. It's kind of the big thing down here in California.
I've never been. Actually.
Or maybe it's just like Orange County. But yeah,
They
just have like 10 million gaming PCs.
I don't think I've ever been to one, but that would be pretty neat.
Yeah,
Just go with all your friends and play COD all together. COD.
That's the one you pick.
of all the games you play, I'm disappointed in you.
What is wrong with me? Although, if I'm completely honest, the first game that I ever played, like on LAN, because I went to a boarding school and everybody was on the same LAN, was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. That was the first game that I
mean, we pretty much did the same thing, but with Halo.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
It was nice because you could play online with guests, whereas in COD you couldn't.
Well, we all had it on our own computers. Well, actually, to be honest, a pirated copy was going around. Everybody had it, the exact same pirated copy. Yep. But like,
you wouldn't download a car. Fuck yes, I'd download a car.
Dude, 3D print me a car like right now. Go for
copyright infringement. You can't.
Oh, well, then make one small tiny flaw.
No, but then somebody's going to come out with an open source car. Like,
I'm sure.
Seriously.
I'm sure.
Someday there'll be an open source car available.
We have the garage-sized printer.
This is the future. Like, just printing your own food, printing your own necessities, and you just buy the blueprints to it, essentially.
Yeah,
Come on, man. I thought this was the future.
We have to, like, figure out a way to make Soylent, though. We need Soylent.
No, we don't.
Like,
There is a product called Soylent.
Of course there's a product.
Yeah, it's like meal replacement shakes, and I'm like, why did you choose that name? Talk about like sci-fi apocalypse nightmares, just to like come full circle on all of our topics for today. But holy cow, there's already a product called Soylent.
I mean,
why?
I think that's the point.
It's like halfway a joke.
I would.
Yeah, it's
hope
supposed to
so.
the fact
Is that a joke?
It's actually made out of humans? Question mark.
So
I'm pretty sure it's made out of soy.
it is. It's spelled soy, SOY. Soylent.
Ah, man.
Drink. Soylent powder. Healthy, convenient, affordable food.
Right.
Oh, and then there's a Gizmodo
of
article
course-
that says what we know about why Soylent products are making people sick. Okay, closing the tab now. We're done.
Moving on.
Okay, that's apparently not a thing you can do. You can't make a meal replacement. Unless it's out of people.
Unless it's out of people.
Because, organic
Just
materials.
the critical nutrients that are only found in people.
Cannibalism aside, I think so. One of the things that usually makes a space game is being set in
space.
the future. No, we already covered the in space thing. Cut me a break every now and then, maybe.
Just sometimes. So, like, kind of blending it with sci-fi a little bit as a genre.
Yeah, I think that goes hand in hand, whether it's like an already established thing like Star Wars or Star Trek, or it's the kind of like getting to space type of deal, like a journey or a mission.
And really, there's so many different, like, it's not even fair to really call space games like a genre, because there's so many different genres of games contained within it. There's like strategy games, there's like Elite, something like Elite Dangerous is more of like a space sim traditionally. But then you have games like Galactic Civilizations or Stellaris, more recently, which are kind of the 4X or strategy type. There's games like XCOM, which are definitely sci-fi, and there are aliens, so that it could fit under a definition, although it doesn't take place actually in space. It takes place mostly on Earth, but the aliens are in space.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely not a genre. I think it's just more of a theme or setting, like what you were saying, is that it's part of the setting and the framework for the game in which to take place. So I mean, it's unfair, I think, to try and classify games as a space game, except that it takes place in space, or that's like a vital component to it somehow. Because I mean, like, thinking about Star Wars games, there's a number of Star Wars games that I wouldn't classify as a space game because space plays a very minimal role.
Star Wars Force Unleashed.
But the whole universe is still extremely dependent on the existence of space.
So, right, I using space as a means of traveling or a setting, I guess would make sense. Like FTL is set in space, therefore I would consider it a space game. But like The Force Unleashed is, while it is in space, you're not in space.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really matter that it's there. So I don't know. I think you get to a point and you just are kind of, or I'm just kind of discussing minute semantics a little bit too much, but
semantics are the best.
It's one of those things that is just kind of interesting to look at, whether it's like science fiction or space, or where that sort of line is. And I guess it's just a hierarchy more or less, and the space aspect fits into the setting.
I mean, I definitely think it's something that's always appealed to me just due to the potential expansiveness, right? When you have an entire galaxy to explore, that's part of the reason that we were so drawn to Mass Effect 1, right? You could just go out and land on some of these planets and drive around on them. And yes, there are, since then, there have been lots of people complaining about the mechanics and all sorts of things. But at the time, it was still a really cool experience to be able to go to some of these planets and oh, holy cow, there's like a colony here, and oh man, I've discovered that something really fucked up is going on in this colony, and now I need to save these people, or now it's sending me to this other planet.
And tying actually that into the Fallout thing, where when you go to the planets in Mass Effect 1, you would, go into an installation or something, and maybe there's no one there, and there's just like a couple like logs to read. And so in that instance, you're learning bits of the story that relate to another quest line or relate to something else that you've been doing. And so it's not, I think that that's a way that is done well in terms of incorporating some of that like in-game reading quest logs to furthering a story. So like you might not know about the other side of the story, like the corrupt Cerberus things that were happening in this place, if you hadn't gone there and read these logs and discovered this information, which then ties into, you know, another quest that you've been doing or following. And I think that Mass Effect 1 did a really good job of having a good balance of all of that. And it is really what makes me excited for Mass Effect Andromeda, because now you are in uncharted space. Like, no one has ever been there before. You're part of the pioneers that go there and discover it. So I'm really hopeful that the exploration is given, you know, a lot of room to breathe and make something cool from it. I want to go to a new foreign planet and just be like, look at all this cool stuff in a way that's fun and exciting and not repetitive, you know, procedural generation No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool that like Mass Effect 1 had an emphasis there on like organic discovery of like narrative and plot elements and even just quests. And I think that's something that really tied in the immersion for me. And that's not even really something that necessarily has to be specific to like, you know, a game of galactic scale or a space game. It's just, you know, how you're weaving your plot into the gameplay itself. But because, you know, you could end up on a planet that you'd never been before, it was this, you know, really unknown factor where I have no idea what I'm going to find here. And then when it does tie back to something that you've been doing already or events that have been going on in the universe, it really just draws you in even further.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited for Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't know, on one level, I feel like it probably isn't going to be like taking some of those same themes. I think it's going to be more of like a big epic, like you're going to find something that like threatens the fate of this new galaxy and, you know, or something like that. Lord. Honestly,
if they bring the Reapers back, I'm going to be so disappointed.
It's like the Reapers are coming for every galaxy now.
I would be so disappointed.
But at the same time, I really wouldn't be surprised.
Shut them down, right? That's the whole idea of the Reapers.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised that they just had no other
just
way
like shenanigans.
No, but, I think that you're right, that it'll be a big space opera, dramatic, galactic, need to save the world type of thing. Just because that's kind of what the Mass Effect games became as they progressed on. But in spite of that, I hope that there's a lot of simple things that happen. That's one of the reasons I loved Mass Effect 1's story, is because it starts out very down to earth. You know, you're trying to become a Spectre, you're trying to do this stuff and like do the good in the world for the Citadel, for all this stuff. And then the story uncovers itself as you go on, but like it's very it feels much more grounded. Ironic talking about space, but like it feels much more grounded because it feels plausible, and it's not the annihilation of the whole galaxy, even with the Reaper and all of the epic stuff that happens at the end of Mass Effect 1.
And it builds up to it. Yeah,
it builds up to it in a very like organic feeling way, and you're like, okay, this Reaper's big and scary, but then by the time you're in Mass Effect 3, it's like galaxy's dead. Like, why are we even trying?
We're all screwed.
Good. Yeah. So I unfortunately think that it is going to be another big, huge, dramatic space opera thing, because I just, from what I've seen in the trailers, that's what it seems like it's going to be. But I hope that they leave room for the smaller, down-to-earth side missions and quests and the things that will really make you care about the game. Because that's what matters, is like caring about the characters and everything that makes that game world what it is. That's what really draws you into the game,
and you have to love it to want to save it. Like,
right,
you know, if there's a world where they don't build up that investment in the characters in the universe, then you have an existential threat to the universe and you're like, I don't really care, too much effort.
The experience with the Genophage and the Krogans in Mass Effect 3 was so huge and so pivotal of a moment, because they built it up so
from the
well.
first game.
And that was one of those things that still felt very down to earth. And like everything's being destroyed, but we can do this thing for the good of all of us except the ones who are dead. So,
and that was still an epic moment, but because it was tied into all these characters and people and like just issues that you had encountered throughout the entire series, like it was so tied into everything. The Genophage was a critical part of the history of the Mass Effect galaxy, you know? And so like having those plot elements, whereas like the Reapers in some ways are sort of like, you know, it's kind of like the Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, right? They just come down from external to the story to create all this change and create all this chaos, but they're not organic to the story and they're not organic to the universe.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it would have been cool if at the end of the day it's like, yeah, the Reapers are here, but there's like other things that like matter too. But you know, the game became entirely about the Reapers,
which is fair, and I think that they did a good job building up to it. I just think that it got too big in the sense that I loved the world that it took place in, and I wanted to get more exploration of that. Like setting foot on the Citadel for the first time, you're like, oh yeah, whoa, this is awesome, you know. And I don't know, it again could very well be the whole rose-colored glasses first game experience, but I do think that even Saren as the, you know, main antagonist was a very real character.
Oh like, yeah, and some of the like, I don't know how much spoilers matter here, but like some of the ending options, like if you're like Super Paragon, I think you can get him to like shoot himself, can't you?
You get him to recognize what he's been doing, and he's like, I can't go back, I can't do this. But it shows, you know,
it's like it gives him some, you know, quote unquote humanity. Obviously he's a Turian, but
yeah, but it definitely it adds dimension to the character, which, you know, kind of like Dantean, what you were saying about Fallout 4 being the characters are so extreme of their goal and what like their mission is that they don't feel like people. I think that sort of started to become a little bit of an issue as you went in further into Mass Effect for the story, less so for the characters, because the game became about we have to do all of the side stuff to stop the Reapers. It wasn't we have to stop the Reapers and there's all of the side stuff that still matters.
Or that's being impacted by the Reapers, but we just still have to do it anyway, because like otherwise all this other bad shit is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was, you know, in some ways, like a lot of the RPGs that are and stories that are most interesting is, you know, we have to save the world, but we have to not become what we hate while we're saving it, right? Because we have to do all this other stuff. Whereas Mass Effect, it's like at a certain point, it's like, well, the Reapers are so bad that if we don't just do all of this stuff, like nothing else actually matters anymore. Like you get beyond a threshold. Yeah. And you know, that's probably more or less true just depending on your experience with the game and, you know, whether you're playing like Paragon or Renegade, right? Yeah, if you're playing more of a Renegade, that's definitely your approach, right? It's just save the world at all costs or save the universe at all costs. And so you justify all this other kind of actions. But I don't know, for other games, I think or for RPGs where your impact is more gradual or more incremental, like you make small changes here and there, like you go to this city or you go to this area and you help out these specific people. But then, like, over time, you see that influence played out, and, you know, and that's how you make progress, and that's how you make change. Like, you really start to see that organic experience over time. Whereas if it's just like, oh, well, we got to save the world and nothing else matters, like, you tend to ignore everything else, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's definitely a kind of a contrast that I've seen in a lot of RPG games. You know, like we were talking about with the Elder Scrolls games, too. You know, if the storyline is too apocalyptic, then what incentive do you have to go out and actually explore this open world? Like, let's just ignore the apocalypse for a while because I can play the game for 15 hours, and as long as I don't go talk to this NPC, this quest won't advance. Like,
right. Well, and I think a big part of it too is, you know, the Mass Effect story was good and I did enjoy it, but it did get to the point where it felt more like a movie and less like a game in terms of how the story was progressing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so part of the thing that Mass Effect 1 did good was it sold me on the universe. It sold me on all of these aliens that we'd never met before. It sold me on some of their culture, and it made me want to be a part of that world, not have to go away from that world and save the galaxy. Like, I would have been totally fine if Mass Effect 2 and 3 was just more of you being a space cop basically going around and like keeping order or making chaos depending on how you played the game.
And there's so many cool storylines that could have evolved out of that, you know, with villains and other characters trying to do various nefarious things. Like there could be many villains, like there could be all sorts of enemies that you could have to face and investigate and track down.
And so it's hard thinking about Mass Effect Andromeda where we're no longer going to be in that familiar galaxy. We're going to be somewhere else. And I don't know how it will play out, obviously, but I hope that we feel a part of it, you know, in a way that is exploring and expansive, but that we kind of care about why we're there and what we're doing. And I just, I don't know. We'll see, but I do definitely anticipate it being like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 in terms of ramping up a story all crammed into one game.
Yeah.
And I would rather have a game more like Fallout or, you know, the Elder Scrolls games, but set in the Mass Effect world. I think that's kind of what I want, honestly. Something that gives you a bit more freedom, but that has directed missions and quests and whatnot. But
I mean, it really just has to do with like plot design as well. Like we're saying, if you know, sometimes it is hard to just have these big epic, like, you know, world changing storylines and then have something that feels natural as a side quest at the same time.
Yep. You do, yeah. Definitely like what you'd said before, is that you have to sacrifice one for the other if the main story is too apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm. You know, and then on the other hand, like, you know, Dantean was saying with Fallout 4, right? There's so much just like random stuff that you don't get that impact from anything, and then like you don't care about the main storyline. Exactly. So it's like this trade-off, and I don't really know what the right balance is. And I think like game developers, obviously, the pendulum swings back and forth depending on what genre you're talking about, or, you know, what era of game development you're talking about,
and who your publisher is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it definitely seems like, just based on genre, there's the more like story quote unquote games now, but those most often focus on like the big epicness, and then the more open world quote unquote games tend to have like not as well written or thoroughly written stories, but then have more just like a multitude of quests.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point you make as well, because as we've talked about in the past, Mass Effect 1 was much more a role-playing game than 2 and 3, which were more shooters.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that the point you just made plays a lot into that. You know, when you go away from the player choice and incorporation with the role-playing aspects, and I don't mean just how many points you put in to level up.
Like the actual like conversation choices that you make.
Yes. When you get to Mass Effect, well, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3, there was a line option that said like, I don't like this. And you basically were like, F you, I hate everything, go die. And it's like, that is not what I said at all.
The bottom option in red.
And there, obviously there was some of that in Mass Effect 1, but I definitely felt like it was a closer tie to what I felt like I wanted to represent. And something that I think they also did throughout the series was a lot of the mechanics that were behind the scenes when it came to the conversation and the relationships with the characters were more gamified in Mass Effect 2 and 3. Like with the like the quests for each character, what were they called?
Definitely.
The loyalty
quests.
quests.
Yeah.
Like it still happened. The same mechanic was there in Mass Effect 1. The mechanic didn't really change that much. Like you still had loyalty quests, but it was behind the scenes. It like
you didn't see, the little like circle underneath their character that made them glow, and you're like, they are now loyal to me. Right. It was just like, you knew they were loyal because you just helped them, like, you know, go over and not make this assassination attempt that they were hired to do.
And you had to talk to them over time and, like, you know, pick conversation options that made them not hate you as well. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, it was probably, maybe I'm underestimating the game's ability to, like, give you the quest anyway, but underestimating.
Yeah, I definitely thought those are really cheesy pie. Like having to, like, at the end, if you want to have your whole crew live, you have to do every single loyalty mission. That was like,
yeah,
okay, let me hear your life story. Like,
or if you want to live, like
and then as soon as you do that, it's like, okay, I don't care about this life story, but I'm doing it for the game mechanic now.
Yeah, and I think that should factor into things, but I don't think that the game mechanic should be there in the sense that, like, well, you need your crew to be loyal to you, because if you're a renegade and you don't care about your non-renegade crew, you're like, I don't care about your pansy story with blah blah whatever, like, you know, we're gonna go get more tattoos.
Seriously.
it does kind of pigeonhole you into playing a more heroic, all-caring Commander Shepard in that way, doing all the loyalty missions, which isn't to say that like a renegade Shepard wouldn't care about his crew, but I think that it would, you know, it forces you to play in a direction that the role-playing aspect might otherwise not.
Right. I definitely think my first playthrough of Mass Effect 1, I was like, some of the quests I just didn't do because like, I don't care about this. This isn't important.
Yeah.
Which, you know, so maybe the completionist urge is also kind of the bane of that as well.
Well, that's
when you
make
it a game mechanic. But I think when you make it a game mechanic, it kicks in that completionist urge a little bit more, right?
That's true. That's true.
You know, because if you can see, you have completed 9 out of 11 or however many loyalty quests, as opposed to, you know, in Mass Effect 1, you just would walk around the ship and talk to people. And it like, at least that's how I played it.
Yeah. Eventually they'd be like, hey, so there's this thing.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it maybe was still related to like your progress in some way, but it felt a little bit more separated, at least. Like it, you know, well, it felt more organic.
Yeah, it definitely felt more organic and more authentic to the development of the game and the progression of the game. It wasn't just like, I've done, after this quest, now I can talk to them and activate their loyalty quest, which was basically Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Do a story quest, talk to your crew, activate the loyalty quests that you can, go do them, be done with those, go do next story mission, and then just like very linearly.
Yeah, it definitely, even just in the mission design, I noticed that they became a lot more linear.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it became shooter focused.
Right.
And they wanted something that was more approachable.
You know, so for some people, Mass Effect 1 is terrible and they hate it, and like Mass Effect 2 and 3 are great, just because of like what they were expecting to get out of it. But I think, you know, it's funny, like we're saying, because we started with Mass Effect 1, like at not having played or even realized the existence of the later ones, obviously, because they hadn't come out. Just, you know, we had a particular mindset that we carried through the whole series.
Yeah, and it's also the, I think, kind of game we're going to be more drawn to. I don't think we've talked about on the podcast a whole lot, but we've come up with many ideas over the years we've known each other about the perfect shooter, quote unquote. And I think a lot of those ideas were drawn from some of the things we liked about Mass Effect 1. And then some of the things we didn't like about Mass Effect 2 and 3, you know. But it definitely, I think, the play style and immersion aspect of Mass Effect 1 was much more our speed and something that we were engaged in. Whereas Mass Effect 2 and 3, I think, were streamlined to be more approachable to a wider audience of gamers. And again, I've said it before, and I will say it again, that I think that the EA, you know, doing the publishing of the game had a huge impact on that and the direction that it took. But
definitely. I mean, yeah, like BioWare, you know, before it made games like KOTOR and Neverwinter Nights and like Baldur's Gate and like all these RPG-based games. And, you know, they're a very different developer now. And obviously they're much more massive. They're reaching a much wider audience. And so their goals and the scope of what they do has changed entirely. So it's unfair to compare them directly and to compare the output directly. It is apples and oranges in that sense. But it is just interesting, having played their games for like, you know, 15 years at this point, seeing how things change over time, you know, and just how their priorities change.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, that's definitely one style of like the sci-fi kind of space theme that we've been discussing, is kind of the more RPG, like first person shooter focused one. I'm gonna throw a game out here that fits into the space game genre that is very different, which is Kerbal Space Program.
Oh, okay.
The object is getting to space.
You must go to space. Definitely in a whole nother left field as far as how it actually plays. Like originally it was more of a sandbox game, but there's actually a lot of cool stuff in it now that I haven't even tried. They have a whole simulated, like basically NASA, and you have to like worry about funding and doing like research and all this stuff. Of course, there's still the sandbox mode. But yeah,
I haven't played Kerbal Space Program before. I know you've talked about it some, but I'm how how does it play in terms of like the sandbox mode, like when you're creating your ships and stuff?
Yeah, so as well for the non-existent Internet Void listeners who haven't heard of Kerbal Space Program, Kerbal Space Program is like a ship design and simulator game where you basically try and build rockets or various types of spacecraft and launch them from this Earth analog, Kerbal or Kerbin, and get to like the moon or various planets or like create space stations. But it's very, very challenging in the sense that, like, you know, if you want your rocket to be able to get into orbit, you better damn well make sure you have enough fuel and like all these other things, and make sure it flies properly, make sure you can actually control the rocket. Because if you can't, you're going to lose control, it's going to crash into the ground, and your pilots are going to die. But then you try again, so it's fine. So it's a sandbox game in the sense that, like, you know, you're testing these rocket designs and you build something, see what happens, and you're like, okay, let's add more fins, let's add more rocket boosters, let's add all these other things or whatever, right? And then you're gradually trying to increase the scope of what you can do, whether it's create a space station, you can start like mining fuel off the moon, that kind of stuff. You can go to all the different planets in this like fairly accurately modeled solar system, but you have to use fairly realistic orbital mechanics to actually get your spaceships there. So you have to like make sure you're able to like use space thrusters to like orient it in the right direction and like, you know, fire the engines and pilot it correctly as well, or else you're going to die.
Physics.
Because physics, yeah. But what really drew me into it at first was just like basically the content creation sandbox, in the sense that you had all of these different parts that you could put together in interesting ways and create spacecraft, as well as like planes. You can make planes in the game as well that operate in so many different ways. And people have modded the game. The game developers have hired a huge amount of the modding community, actually.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So it's expanded a ton over its lifetime. I played so much of it originally. I played like 250 hours that like I got sick of it. But I'm kind of waited until the game came out of early access in the past year or so.
Gotcha.
And I should go back and play it again. But I've been thinking about it. It's just so cool having that like organic experience of, you know, designing your spacecraft and like gradually increasing your knowledge of how the game works and how to actually get to these really challenging locations.
I still can't get one of my ships into orbit.
Yeah. Well, and then most of the time you just spend with them exploding on the launch pad.
Yes. It's really sad because the little Kerbals are so freaking cute. They're humanoid.
They're also
gigantic
insane.
Green heads, and they have like some cute noises. They scream. Oh, I'm a huge sucker for cute things.
For cuteness, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. You should check it out if you ever get a chance to get your hands on a copy. I would definitely recommend it.
But if you're bad at math, prepare to be frustrated.
Maybe just watch like some Scott Manley.
Oh shoot, there's math. I'm out. Where's the door? Where's the window?
I mean, you have to like. Oh yeah, there's physics and shit you have to account for.
Yeah. Maybe just watch some Scott Manley.
Yeah.
He's pretty interesting at playing Kerbal Space Program.
Why don't you just start playing
Stream
it again
it.
and I'll just watch you play
No.
it?
Yeah, we'll watch you stream. Watch you fail it. That physics major.
Yeah,
That would be much more, I think, enjoyable for me than
considering this is actually like a sort of like actual like main game mode, not just a sandbox mode these days.
Yeah, you should think about adding
that'd
that
be
to
fun.
many game lists for streams.
This is all the game. Play every single game at the same time. Octo games.
Need
You
more
could also
arms.
play Octodad.
I could play
wanted.
Octodad, which is not a space game.
No, it's not.
Where does Octodad come from?
We should make a space mod for Octodad.
He comes from an aquarium, actually.
Oh.
Never mind.
Makes me think of like Finding Dory, the octopus that like tries to escape.
Right.
Or wants to go to
yeah.
Cleveland or something, right? I don't remember.
That story was super passable. Let me tell you.
Like, it was fun and cute, but...
It was definitely adorable, but like I was definitely much more invested in Finding Nemo.
But it's a remake, you know. Like we've been talking about, sometimes just the goals change over time.
Absolutely.
Well, are there any other space games or just games we wanted to discuss before we kind of move toward wrapping things up?
I was thinking we could talk about Planetary Annihilation a little bit, because it's something that we've all somewhat played in the recent year.
As a space game?
I would say so.
You land your Titan on a...
definitely. I think something that I never really got to a whole lot of in Planetary Annihilation is, which, for the record, is one of the few RTS games that, or real-time strategy games that I felt okay playing and not felt completely lost and like I'm incapable of doing anything, which I definitely appreciated a lot about. But the whole like orbital space fighting aspect is a really interesting layer that I only was, I think, sort of starting to scratch the surface back when we were playing it. But I mean, I would definitely call that, the space aspect that you have to think about, because it's not only like the ground war, but it's the space war in orbit as well. That I think it adds an interesting layer to the strategy that
it's definitely challenging to manage sometimes. But
yes, but. Which is weird, again, that I felt the most in control of things. I just, hadn't played it a whole lot, but...
Yeah, if you're not super familiar with Planetary Annihilation, for the viewers, listeners, they're not viewers, it's kind of like Supreme Commander is what I've heard it described, but basically you control this robot, he's your commander, you get orbital dropped onto a planet, and you can build 4 different types of fabricators. Is it 4? I think bot, vehicle... like air, like tanks, orbital. Like sea, and then orbital. So there's actually more than that. There's different types of fabricators. Each type of fabricator builds either buildings or like various turrets and things. But then you have like factories which build like bots, which are basically like little walker robots. And you can build like tanks or planes, or then like orbital ships. So it's all about production. Like you want to increase your production, and you have to get metal, and you have to get energy, so you have to put down power plants. So it's a kind of a simple like 2-resource RTS game, but it's not
more pylons.
Yeah, you must build all the pylons, but it's nice because like the construction and the tech makes sense. Like you build the basic bot factory, and so you can build the basic level bots, and then you can build a fabricator from that factory to build the next level of bot factory, and everything just has like the normal level and the advanced level. So it's very clear, like, if I want to get more advanced types of units, build the next thing up. But they're going to be walkers because I built the bot factory, right?
Yeah.
It's not like all these confusingly named buildings with, like, tech trees that you're like, but you have to unlock these 4 things over here to unlock this unit, which then unlocks this thing, which, like, for somebody who hasn't played StarCraft, for example, it kind of is like that if you're playing some of the more difficult races. So in some sense, you could say that Planetary Annihilation is like dumbed down, but I think it really just has like a focused design. And like you were saying, it's one of the few strategy games that you've actually felt like you've been able to pick up and play.
Yes.
And just definitely enjoy and have fun with, battling your friends and blowing them up.
Or battling my friends and being blown up.
Yeah, well.
But yes, the point still stands. It was one of the few.
The only one.
I definitely feel that when we play that, you tend to have a commanding role.
Well, I mean, that's just because I am the RTS player in general out of us. But
I definitely like the big robots you can build Titans. So that would be the Titan expansion. It takes it into like a different sort of ground battle game where you send out your big robots and your little robots to take out the smaller shit. I don't know. Definitely lots and lots of production, though. I'm very bad at this game. I'm very, very bad at this game.
Yeah, I'm honestly not too certain how it would function on a competitive level, because it does seem like at least some of the Titans, you can just, at a certain point, if you build enough of the little fabricator units, you can build things really, really quickly. So you can build like nukes, you can build these like planetary annihilation lasers, which is why it's called Planetary Annihilation, because you like blow up planets. But once you get the orbital fabricators, you can build like 10 million of them. And as long as you have enough power, you can just start pumping out these Titans. So like if somebody can't penetrate your defenses and like take out your production, you're like, oh, lol, I'll just have these like 30 orbital Titans that just can fly to anywhere in the galaxy and just like wreck. But on the other hand, somebody can build up defenses. So it's like, maybe it is balanced. I don't know.
I've tried using walls. Those don't work.
When you can go into orbit, it doesn't seem like there's much of a point for walls.
Yeah, well, and that was something that I think I always kind of struggled with, was building defenses and then becoming too like holed in one spot and not expanding enough, and or then not having enough offensive production as well to actually, again, go out and conquer. So it was kind of difficult, to do that for me, or to find the line between those.
Yeah, I think for me, the way conceptually I thought about it was, your army is mobile, obviously. So then you always want to be like keeping tabs on the enemy's army. So if like you just have some like scouts hanging around, even if they die, it's like individual units don't matter. But you want static defenses in place to protect your factories mostly. But it's just to like buy time. Because if the enemy army comes in and is trying to like push through and kill your factories, well, you have all these turrets and stuff that they're going to kill them. But they're eventually going to kill your turrets. Like, it's pretty hard to like build a static defense that's strong enough that somebody can't crack it eventually. But what you can do is slow them down so that then you can like either build an army or like fly your army over there to then fight them and push them back off, because then they don't want to take the fight right on top of all your turrets, right? So like you build the static defenses in place to like protect those choke points and buy yourself time to allow your army to be more spread out.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just, again, sort of getting tunnel visioned in what I'm trying to actually accomplish is difficult for me, which is, again, why I think RTSs in general are kind of difficult, because there's a lot of aspects you have to manage all at the same time. But that said, Planetary Annihilation was pretty good.
Yeah, once you start getting into like the 6 planets, though, it's kind of tough, because you're like, I've got all these things to manage. And the controls become a little clunky, unfortunately. That's kind of my main gripe with the game, is that sometimes the controls can be a little clunky, especially starting out. But they're also weirdly intuitive in some ways. It's kind of a mix. It's a trade-off. But yeah, anyway, are there other games of this type that we are wanting to discuss?
I think I'm set. We talked a bunch about Mass Effect. I don't know if there's any others, but
it's been good. Thank you, Dantean, for being on our episode.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's fun to have you. Thanks for breaking our tie and
tearing it in half.
It was very close. I'm happy.
It was pretty close.
Yeah, that really came down to the wire.
Yeah, really it did. I'm happy.
That was pretty fun, though. I liked having us both guess things at the same time that neither of us knew what they were going to be. Like, that was an interesting an interesting twist on the normal Mystery Sound thing. I enjoyed that greatly.
Hey, there you go. I can help out with that a little more often if you'd like to. If you have
we might have
in the future.
Yeah, we might have to do that again. Switch things up a little bit like that. But
Nintendo Switch?
Oh, well, I mean, sort of thinking about that. I was curious if you guys had any thoughts about any of the new information that's come out about the Switch, or if there's any game releases you're looking forward to on the Switch or anything like that.
Has there been new information since we last talked about it?
I mean, they came up with technical specifications pretty much.
Oh, I had not heard. I'm a ignorant heathen.
Well, I don't remember very much off the top of my head, apart from the fact that when docked, it'll run at 1080p. It's got a custom-built NVIDIA Terga. So it's running its own GPU, much like most modern-day consoles nowadays. They run their own dedicated GPU built for them.
But that's just in the dock? Or like there's a separate one in the dock?
Kozar, do you know what the specifics are on that? But I'm pretty sure most of the hardware is contained within the handheld unit.
It's right? Essentially, that's from my understanding, is that it's basically all in the handheld unit.
It becomes amplified or like more powerful when it's put into the dock or something. Might be
that's interesting.
Got direct power or something.
It's probably a really interesting hardware design to make it function.
It honestly could just be that because it's plugged in and whatnot, it's able to run 1080 for the sake of having a solid power supply and just the screen and whatnot. Like,
yeah,
the screen that is on the handheld just might have been too much, pushing it to 1080. That could be.
Yeah,
maybe just the battery life alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's supposed to have, what, like 3 hours, as they said?
No, more than that. Wasn't it like
4 hours?
5?
It depends on the game. I think that they said 2.5 to like 5 or 6 hours, depending. Okay. But it charges with USB-C, so you can plug it into any USB car charger or any USB spot thing anywhere, which is nice. You don't need a proprietary like cable or like a wall socket.
Speaking of USB-C, I saw one of the like small new MacBook laptops that's like pretty much the only port it has.
Yes, it has one
terrible.
USB-C port or two or something like that, I think.
And like one of them is for the power. Like,
yeah,
it's absolutely awful. Like, I have no idea. Like,
you got to buy those adapters. You got to
just like 10 million dongles.
And the freaking adapters cost $100 a piece. Ridiculous.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the design direction that Apple has been taking with their stuff, which is unfortunate because I do really enjoy their hardware. Like I've always been an Apple person, but yeah, lately I'm not.
I mean, so you know, like what you're saying, you know, the old Apple technology and the new, you can't really compare it. It's like apples and oranges.
Well done. I wasn't sure. I knew it was a joke, but I wasn't sure
with my tone of voice and the stilted delivery.
Yeah, actually, you take a step back and you're like, but wait,
let me call attention to this opportunity that has presented itself for us today.
Moral of the story: save your money, build yourself your own custom rig.
Or if you're gonna get one of these tiny books, like I don't even understand the point. Like honestly, you know, when we've gone from phones to like desktops, I feel like the laptop is going to be the thing that's going to be kind of the thing of the past eventually, except for like gaming. So you're going to have like laptops, but then what the hell's the point of a like shitty laptop? You might as well just have a tablet.
Right. At that point, seriously, there's no point in having a netbook anymore. You just get a tablet with a keyboard like on the side, right?
Yeah.
I agree on that. I think that there's definitely going to be a use for having laptops. I think that there, with a lot of creative production, there is
probably.
Yeah, and there is still a lot like Apple's hardware and just how they put their computers together just run reliably. I've never had a problem with my MacBook Pro. That said, it's, like 5 years old now, but it's still running fine. The hard drive's getting a little funky, but like it's done what I've needed it to do. It's been a creative powerhouse for me for doing music and video editing and all kinds of things. And I think that the portability behind it has been vital because, having been in college and moving around a bunch is needed, so I don't have to lug around a desktop. But
it's fun.
But like these tiny mini ones, I guess, is really what I'm talking about. Not like a full laptop, but like
these like a netbook.
The MacBook Airs and things like that.
Yeah.
The reason is because everyone has an iPhone, and so they want the MacBook so that their iPhone just like matches up seamlessly. It just becomes a brand at that point, really.
Yeah, you just have the whole loadout of gear, even though half of it's kind of pointless.
My respect and appreciation of Apple does not come from the brand. It comes from the quality of the products that they put out.
Yeah.
I am against basically any of the software updates that they've had in the past few years, and not necessarily like operating systems specifically, but I haven't really enjoyed those either. The iTunes updates and changes, they actually did fix iMovie, which is nice, but there was the whole Final Cut fiasco at one point where they updated it and they're like, let's make this more user-friendly. And all the professionals are like, excuse you? You did what to my Final Cut Pro? And then they had to like release like a professional version or whatever and be like, oops, sorry.
Whoopsie, we just broke functionality for like half of our user base, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's difficult because I do think that they still do make quality products. Like if you want to get something that is going to be reliable and going to work for you, and that's the thing, like honestly, if your main use for a laptop is going to be email, Facebook, and just very basic word processing functionalities, go ahead and get a MacBook or something, because it's going to last you for 10, 15 years and you're not going to have any problems with it because you're never going to need to upgrade your hardware.
Yeah.
And
I guess like you don't want to like type shit on your phone, I guess.
Yeah,
really is the only distinction. But at that point, it's like a tablet would give you kind of the similar functionality, right?
Yeah.
Right, but like at the cost of that reliability is what he's getting at.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really just it depends on your need. And it depends on what you think. Like if someone's coming to me and they're like, I really want like an Apple computer, and I'm like, what are you going to do with it? And they're like, well, I'm going to send some emails and do Facebook. I'm going to be like, or how about you get this $300-400 like, you know, Acer laptop that's going to do all of those things for you just fine, and you're not going to break your bank.
Yeah.
But if someone's going to, you know,
3 markup,
yeah, it's just it is kind of, you know, a balancing act, because I do feel that Apple's hardware, if you're nice to it, which, you know, I am, so maybe a basic Windows laptop would last me for a really long time too, but it really just depends on like your use of it, though. I do still strongly feel that Apple's hardware is good, and I don't see that changing, which is nice. I just wish that they would stop getting rid of adapters. You know, I don't know that I'm ever going to buy another MacBook because I don't want to have to get a USB adapter for my Ethernet.
That's like the dumbest thing ever. Like,
oh, you're gonna need one for your Wii U too, just, you know.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm gonna get one when I get my Switch. I'm not gonna get an adapter for the Wii U because. But also, while we're
but at
on
least
that
it's a different
thread,
purpose for the
so,
the piece of technology.
Exactly.
Yes, you know, I that's that I agree. It's a little different. It's not as well anymore. I guess a gaming console it is a little vital because there's so much digital downloading that like.
But doesn't the Wii U have wireless though, right?
It does,
yes, yeah. All of the Nintendo consoles.
It only works on the 3 band instead of the 5 band.
Oh,
sure.
It's not great, but it is what it is.
I mean, my laptop works on the 3 band.
Well, it's only on the 3 band?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which case you should be fine.
But I mean, I have an Ethernet cable as well, so like you're right.
Right.
But I mean, talking about that Nintendo hardware, like you're still running your 64, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I still have my Super Nintendo.
Nice.
I should have kept mine. My mom fucking sold mine. My mom was like, "You're never going to use this," and she
like,
just
hell
sold
yes,
them.
I am.
And I was like, "Fine, you're right." And I was, and now I'm older, and I want to play all these games, and I'm like, and I bought them again for like the Wii Virtual Console, and I'm like,
it's okay though, because pretty much any SNES game you can just play on emulator now.
That's what I mean. Like, oh well, yeah, that's who I can get it for free, right?
But I think that
don't tell the internet.
I think that it actually having I have my Super Nintendo, but really I am much more likely to rebuy the game and play it on the Wii U or on the Switch or whatnot, which I don't know why, but I think one of the big things, first of all, is finding a TV that has an RCA adapter was surprisingly difficult
These days, yeah.
I was kind of surprised. They have the audio ins, but they don't have the video in unless you like go through the component, and not all of them support that. But it could be something that just like was a phase or whatnot. But like my Super Nintendo, you have to go in through the antenna. Like that's how it connects to your TV.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's
right.
crazy.
That's how you did that. It was
I didn't know
coax. It was coax.
And so I think that there is an RCA adapter for the Super Nintendo, but I'm not sure. And there just probably are a bunch of cheap knockoff cables out there. But so I think that's part of why I would be more inclined to rebuy it, because it's just going to be more reliable or whatnot. But then again, there is something about having that like nostalgia for it. And there's some games like Super Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, the most impossible game I've ever played. Like, that's never going to get re-released, and I want to eventually play and try to beat that game, because I remember that just being such a painful experience as a child, because like there was a pit that I couldn't cross. It was like in the first level. I could never beat it. And I was like, what is this? And like Rogue Squadron for the N64, such a difficult game. And like I'm assuming it was super difficult because I was a child, but at the same time it could just be that difficult of a game and that involved and in depth. But
yeah, that's an interesting thing thinking about old games, is that in some ways, in order for them to be entertaining, they had to either be challenging or have really good gameplay. Whereas nowadays, games can kind of get away with not having either of those, or it's just it's different.
Pretty.
Yeah,
yeah.
That it, you know, because it's like if the game looks like shit, it's gotta either be fun to play or really difficult. Like
yeah, and that's fine. I think that that's a, you know, one of those triangle things, that it's one of those things has to work.
One of those triangle things.
You take out two, but not the other.
Yeah, exactly.
How about them shapes?
Yeah, pick two.
Well, because I just think of like the whole like college thing. It's like try to balance friendship, life, schoolwork, you can have
And
none of
Slade.
You
these.
pick 2, yeah.
Or whatever.
Pick
yeah.
2 of 7, yeah.
But I also thought it was interesting that the Wii U has ended its production cycle in Japan. I don't remember when that was, but I read.
The consoles themselves?
Yeah.
Huh.
So they're
getting ready for the Switch.
They're getting ready for the Switch, and they're trying to put the Wii U behind them. But I think that the Wii U will still have some staying power for a while because there's not a ton of games out for the Switch right now.
Yeah.
However, I am really excited about the online functionality of the Switch because it's going to be paid, like a subscription based.
That might actually be good.
Yeah, and they released the cost for Japan, and I think it came out to about $30, like $30 US, for a year.
Oh, for a month, that was going to be terrible.
Like,
No,
what?
yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited to have really well put together infrastructure for the online, and they are talking about having like free monthly games where you can play like an old SNES game for free with online functionality, which I don't know what that means. But
So long as you're connected to the internet, you can play this game. You don't own it technically.
well, right. But I mean, I think that they were talking about like having some sort of like online functionality for the game itself.
No, Mario Kart 64.
That'd be
with
cool.
wireless. Fucking
Kirby
multiplayer.
Air Ride. Can we get?
Kirby Air Ride. Oh my
please.
gosh.
I would-
F-Zero X.
Like,
Yes.
yes, please.
See, like if that would be such a like they have to do that because I feel like that can't be that difficult.
And this
Maybe they
Nintendo's
spruce
totally
up the
like
graphics.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. But
I don't even need the graphics spruce up. Just makes
Right.
the resolution so it doesn't look like crap. That's it.
And Nintendo's the king of nostalgia right now, like, for sure.
yes, yeah, and so to have that, like if they crank those out, they're gonna do fine with the subscription as well to be able to
Yeah.
play old retro games with my friends, like not only online but locally. Like if you buy the game and you're like, hey, I'm coming over, I'm bringing my Switch. Okay, you bring your handheld tablet, sit down and play F-Zero. Like what?
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
that's going to be awesome.
Oh, hell
That's the dream. That is the dream right now.
Yeah, it'll just, there'll be some ramp up time while the library expands.
Yeah, but I'm super excited and hopeful that that's what all of that retro stuff is
Until
gonna look
3
like.
years from now when it's the Switch 2 or the Switch U. Switch U.
I don't know. You know, I think that they've got a really good balance in terms of the hardware with this. It's Nintendo again, they're not going to update to 4K when everyone else is at 4K. I still think 4K is ridiculous.
Like,
And-
pointless.
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary at this point, and I don't see it catching on for a while. I also hope it doesn't catch on for a while because I don't care. Like, don't spend all of your investment in making a game, making it 4K. Make it better. Give it better gameplay. Give it new functionality. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I definitely
1080
agree.
is fine, please. We're good. I also don't want to have to spend like $2,000 on a TV to play something in 4K just to
Seriously.
get all of that extra like sort of benefit.
TVs
It's
are
just-
already expensive enough.
yeah.
Smart
It
TVs.
doesn't matter to me. It's not.
Where it's at.
Like, I don't care. I really don't
That,
care.
you know, I think that'll be interesting though. Like I don't know that I'll get one, but
Alrighty. Anyway, it seems like we're wrapping up here. It's been a fun episode.
yeah, definitely
Good time.
Talked about
Thanks
a lot of
for-
different stuff.
joining us. So yeah,
Having me.
feel free to tweet at us at tuneintogaming any of your comments or suggestions or thoughts, or if you have any exciting news about the Switch or games or space or whatever the heck you want to talk about.
If you just
You'd be
want to
like-
heckle us too, that's
Hit
allowed.
us up.
Yeah.
It's
And
at
then
Tune Into Gaming.
yep, or email us tuneintogaming@gmail.com.
You can hit us up on our Twitches because we are very twitchy. I'm Quactical,
I'm North Kozar.
and this has been Tune Into Gaming.
Bye.
This has also been Dantean.
Yeah, no, hey,
Yeah.
Dantean, do our outro. All you got to say is just like in an emphatic voice, tune out.
Tune out.